I was living and working in Brussels for 3 years up until a year ago. Since then, I've been back in London. But at least thanks to the internet and social media, I'm probably just as much of a kind of EU insider, if you like, as I had been previously. However, I work freelance, meaning I can poke fun at the institutions sometimes and work with the institutions other times, which maybe gives me a bit more freedom than some of the other people who are here in the room. And indeed, Dana was inadvertently on the kind of wrong end of one of the things which I'm going to be presenting, so maybe that might be an interesting point for the panel. So the first story is about credible commitment in online activities. And this is about Silvio Berlusconi. I even have to only put a picture up of the guy and people are laughing. Anyway, Silvio Berlusconi pitched up to a European Council summit in Brussels in December of last year, the day after he had survived a no-confidence vote in the Italian parliament by just one vote. So one day in the Italian parliament, next day Mr. Berlusconi comes to Brussels. And if any of you live in Brussels or you're around here, you can see these barriers going up ready for this coming weekend. On a summit day, that's what you're confronted with on the streets of Brussels as a citizen. There are barbed wire fences, water cannon trucks, lines of police. It feels like some kind of a militarized environment. So how about this great idea? We connect up the citizens to the European Council summit using social media. So the idea was, that is the press atrium in the Justus Lipsius building, the summit venue of the council. And in that, I haven't actually got a picture of the screen hanging on the wall. There was a big screen in the council venue where if you wrote on Twitter using the hashtag EUCO, any of the tweets written under that hashtag appeared on the screen in the summit venue. So you have a way of collecting up all of these citizens out there in the general public via Twitter and putting them kind of virtually into the summit venue, if you like. The difficulty was, with those citizens armed with Twitter wherever they were, is that seemed like an opportunity too good to resist to poke fun at Mr. Berlusconi. So this is what happened, and I started this off realizing that this was probably an opportunity too good to miss. I tweeted all my Italian friends and said, "Oi, quick, make your anti-Silvio Berlusconi message on Twitter, post whatever you like using that hashtag," and that was what people came up with. The screen at the top there is actually a screen, the actual kind of picture of the screen in the Justus Lipsius building, and that's an example tweet which was posted there. So what then happened is slightly prematurely this Twitter wall, this Twitter screen inside the council venue had to be turned off as a result of it being so swamped by anti-Silvio Berlusconi messages. And the result of the screen having been turned off, that was then covered by the Italian press and the Italian newspapers that an anti-Silvio Berlusconi protest had been taken to the summit venue in Brussels. Now, what is the deal here? This didn't then look particularly good for the council and its web communications, that their kind of little web communications experiment had been attacked as a way to use in a Silvio Berlusconi protest. This is because there was no credible commitment in that experiment. By credible commitment, I mean if you ask people something on the internet, what are you going to do with what they tell you? If the experiment had said, pose a question to President of the European Council, Herman Van Rompuy. We, the press service, will decide the best question, and Herman Van Rompuy will be posed that question in the real press conference, and people will have dealt with the issue in a serious manner. They may have posed legitimate questions, and there was a filter through which that information was passed. There was no commitment whatsoever that anything that was written on Twitter under the hashtag EUCO was ever going to be listened to by Silvio Berlusconi, by Herman Van Rompuy, by anyone else for that matter. So therefore, what was the only option which we web activists outside the council had? Well, that was actually to essentially bash the reputation of the institution, and by so doing, that therefore drew the attention to this issue of citizen engagement in the European Union decision-making process. How do we get the idea for that? That comes from a very well-known case in the United States. change.gov, which you may be aware of. This was a website put up by Barack Obama the day he was, after he was inaugurated as United States President. Obama said, "Citizens of the USA, tell me what you think." Well, 16 of the top 50 ideas ranked on change.gov were legalization of cannabis for medical uses, which was obviously something that there was no way whatsoever that Obama was ever going to be able to do. So what you had is there the pro-cannabis activists gamed the system for their own ends. We, the people not liking Silvio Berlusconi and wanting a open and democratic decision-making procedure in the European Union, we gamed the system to bash the European Council a little bit. So if you put up any online experiment, what are you going to do with what people tell you? And is your commitment to listen to them a credible one? So that's the first lesson. The second lesson is that long-term presence counts. Now, this one gets a bit rude, I'm afraid, so please bear with me on this one. But it has a go at the Daily Mail, which is every kind of European Union or British European Union person's kind of hate newspaper, if you like. On your screens, you see a headline from the Daily Mail in November of 2009, "Vatican's fury as EU court bans crucifixes in Italian classrooms because they breach the religious rights of children." And it wasn't the European Union at all, it was actually the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, which is not part of the European Union. I got a bit angry with that, and just in a fit of anger, I posted a blog entry which was entitled "Nick Pisa, the Daily Mail journalist who wrote the story, Nick Pisa, Daily Mail journalist, lazy fuckwit." What then subsequently happened was quite an interesting example of destroying someone's reputation via Google. I suddenly was getting an enormous amount of traffic to my blog for people searching for Nick Pisa. Within 2 days of having posted the blog entry, I was the 3rd highest ranked in Google for if you search for Nick Pisa. And even for a while, I was 4th ranked for search for fuckwit. So the guy had actually become Google's definition of fuckwit just due to me writing a blog entry about the guy. He did email me basically criticizing what I'd written about him and actually blaming the sub-editors rather than his poor quality of journalism. Anyway, what then subsequently happened, and you can see there with the blue arrow on your screens, I'm still, what's that, 5th ranked in Google for if you search for Nick Pisa. But interestingly, are numbers 4 and 6, because the same Nick Pisa called the judgment on the Amanda Knox murder case wrongly, saying that Amanda Knox was guilty rather than not guilty. So therefore, a bunch of other bloggers stepped in a couple of weeks ago, saying, as you see the titles there, "Nick Pisa does it again, absolute slime. Nick Pisa, Amanda Knox, a Daily Mail epic fail." So essentially, what we've managed to do, completely inadvertently, because I've never met Nick Pisa, I don't know whether he's a good or a bad guy, although he works for the Daily Mail, so I kind of suspect he's probably a bad guy. Nevertheless, what the important point here is if you, and you're welcome to try it if you wish, you can say Jon Worth, that guy who spoke at the EuropeCom conference, he's a lazy fuckwit. You can try blogging that, but I'll bet you're not going to get onto the front page of Google with your critique, because I've written enough stuff online under my own name over the years to mean that my Google search results are pretty secure. And because the more the years go by, particularly online reputation via search becomes a more and more conservative tool. Long-term reputation counts, because I've been blogging about European Union matters for 6 years. I have a Google page rank for the blog of 7 out of 10, which means my reputation is now at that level relatively secure. So doing the same to me in the same way as I individually managed to do for Nick Pisa would be a rather hard task. So that's that one. And the third is tell the truth. Another European Union related one, this. I'm one of the initiators of a project called Blogging Portal, which is an aggregator which pulls together 849 blogs about European Union matters. We are basically 20 EU nerds who all contribute a bit of time and money to run this platform. One of the bloggers in this network had discovered that the website of the Spanish presidency of the European Union had been hacked. And if you searched for Zapatero, the Spanish Prime Minister, you got a picture of Mr. Bean instead. We had verified those facts. A number of us had chosen to check all of those. But what was the official reaction of Moncloa, the Spanish Foreign Ministry, on Twitter? They claimed we were photo montaging, that we'd mocked up these screenshots of the Spanish presidency website, when actually they had a security breach of their website. Now, the important point there is I doubt, and the previous screenshot was from The Guardian, because this reached the Guardian newspaper in the UK, thanks to the blogging about the issue. If the Spanish Foreign Ministry had chosen to actually be honest and straightforward in their response and realized and acted initially on what bloggers were saying, then maybe the negative coverage would have been able to have been avoided. It's also worth saying that as a result, also from the Berlusconi case and from this one too, personal contacts count. The fact I now know the people, I don't know anyone in the Spanish Foreign Ministry, but I know the people who are doing the web communications for the Council and the European Parliament. I know those people better now than I knew them at the time when doing these things. I might give some of my fellow panelists a bit of a warning now if I were about to try to bash them, whereas before, acting independently and outside the institutions, perhaps I was, in retrospect, maybe a little bit too cruel, but nevertheless, at least it gives an interesting story for the sake of presentation here. So those are the three lessons: credible commitment. Watch your Google search results, and how you control the Google search results is very important, and be honest in your engagement online. There are all of the photo credits and links, because I've been using Creative Commons licensed content, so those are the photos I've used, thanks to contributions from others on the web, and there are some links there as well. And then if you wish to download the slides, they may be distributed after the conference. You can go to url.eu/europecom to download those slides. You're welcome to quote me on any of those things, or use the slides for whatever purpose you wish. And equally, you can connect with me on any of those different social networks. So that is all from me.